Hi, I'm Jeff McClain, a wealth advisor with Wells Fargo Private Bank. As the presenting sponsor for today's event, we're grateful for the opportunity to show our commitment to the community where we spend so much of our time. And enjoy today's conversation, today's event, and hope you have a good time. Thanks for participating.
Welcome to the Silicon Slopes Breakfast. Appreciate you all for tuning in. Today we're joined by Amelia Wilcox, who's the founder and CEO of Zenovate. How are you?
Good, Garrett. Thanks for having me.
If this was a year ago, it would have been Incorporate Massage.
That's correct.
Zenovate rolls off the tongue a little bit better.
Yeah, we always planned on changing the name at some point when we started doing other services, so just brought it out early.
Yeah. I guess the Z's are the last ones to have actual cool names, where you can actually find a name that is good. All right, so we're going to get into some fun stuff and then some not so fun stuff that we participated jointly over the spring and summer. But for those listening and watching at home, why don't you give a quick rundown of your background and then ultimately where the idea of Zenovate came from and kind of the founding story.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I've always been a healer and into health and wellness. I have been a massage therapist since I was 19. I studied nutrition and exercise physiology at the University of Utah and started Incorporate Massage, what it was called back then. I started that in 2010 and grew quickly. We bootstrapped for the first 8 years, and in 2018 we raised a small angel round, and then again in 2019, and so we've raised about 1.2 million, but we'd been in business for about 8 years before that. And then that last round we raised at the end of last year, we had been planning on building kind of like a third version of our platform that was going to allow us to bring on-site services to businesses outside of just massage. So we're going to be able to do yoga and meditation, even things like on-site dry cleaning and dental cleanings and things like that. And so then COVID hit, and it was like on-site services just disappeared overnight. So we'd already planned on rebranding the company when we offered other types of wellness services. So we kind of had that process already started, like we had a list of different names and things like that. But yeah, this just really like kicked it into gear a lot sooner than we planned, and we had to pivot to a virtual offering as well as the on-site that's still there and will come back when COVID's over.
Yes, it will come back. So a lot of folks have probably gotten massages at Tech Summit. You guys have been there for a few years. And then, so the business model pre-COVID was somebody nice in the office would like to reward their employees with massages. They reach out to you guys. All of that's coordinated. So I imagine at the early days it might have been like spreadsheets or emails or notepads. How has the technology evolved over time, and do you find that part enjoyable?
Yeah, I'd say that's probably one of my favorite things that we've watched evolve is just like in the very beginning, it was literally me with my cell phone being like, texting each individual massage therapist, can you work on Friday? And then I hired people to do that. And then I met a guy that worked for a development company out of Florida, and he was like, we could build just something that would automate all that. And that was kind of like the first time my eyes were open to like, I never thought about like how we could build something that would eliminate the need for people to do those menial tasks that nobody wants to do. So we contracted with them. We built the first version, which basically just automated so if somebody booked an event, it would send text messages to our massage therapists, and they could accept or reject those jobs via text, and then it would put it on our schedule. And so that was like the first version. And then the next version we built actually automated the client process. So if you wanted to go online and book something, you just go to our website, you type in exactly what you want, it takes you through a flow, and then boom, you have massage therapists at your office, and you didn't have to talk to anyone. You could just book whatever you want. And so that was kind of how it's evolved over time. And then the Zenovate version 3, which we're on right now, you can actually like go through and book, virtual yoga, virtual meditation. You can work with a dietitian one-on-one or do cooking classes with your whole team. But it's all done through a flow in our app, which we have a mobile app on Android and iOS now, which we're super excited about.
Yeah, very cool. So I would imagine a massage for somebody that's kind of hunched over their computer for 8-10 hours a day is different than somebody like laying bricks, right? Are all of your massage therapists trained to like figure out, all right, this is the type of massage we should do for a tech worker versus a construction person?
Yeah, it actually varies a lot by individual person. So there's a short intake, like 15 seconds, and they'll ask them, what are the areas you want me to focus on? Where are you experiencing pain? Do you have any injuries? But yeah, the common thing we see with people working at desks is it's like shoulder, back of the neck, and then wrist and arm issues. So that's what they typically focus on in the tech space where people are working on computers all day. So, but they can even do like low back, and they can get into the glutes in the chair and everything, work out pretty much anything you could get worked out on a table at a spa, you can get worked on in a chair.
Yeah, and that makes for a good day, right? Then you could work another 8 hours. Forget to go home. All right, so we'll get to post-COVID business model here in a second, but you have to hire a lot of folks to do these massages from all across America now, correct?
Yeah, we're all over the U.S. and also in Canada and Tijuana, Mexico.
Wow, cool. So you're automating how you book the massages, you're automating how the customers book with you. So I imagine that part of HR was probably a headache. How did you automate, or what are you in the process of as far as hiring all of these folks, and how do you make sure that they show up when they say they will and they're good with your brand and image?
Yeah, it's a great question. So in the very beginning, we were just working in Utah, and then when we started working with Entrada, was our first outside of Utah company. They had a Dallas office, which they still have, and they said, "Can you guys do the massages at our Dallas office too, or do we need to hire someone local?" And I was like, "No, we can do it. We can totally do it. I'll figure it out." And so that's when we kind of started developing okay, how do we do a virtual screening, and then how do we do a virtual assessment, and then how do we do the virtual interview, and then how do we onboard them virtually and then train them virtually. So there's kind of all these different steps. And so I worked with our HR director, and we developed a system, and Entrada was our guinea pigs, and it worked. And then we were able to do that kind of across all of the cities, where we can do there's a verbal interview over the phone, and then they submit a video, and we realized you don't actually have to have the massage to be able to assess someone's ability to massage. You can just watch their technique, you can see the way they're leaning in, you can look at their equipment and all these things. And so once we figured out we could visually assess practitioners, we built a system. Our top massage therapists are the ones that are doing the visual assessments, and then we take them through the whole system all virtually.
Wow, pretty robust, even virtually. Okay, so things are going well. Raising money, bootstrapped, raising money, and then mostly in-person and office stuff, and then a fun pandemic hits. And so you were involved with some of our Economic Impact Committee town halls and events, and you were right in the throes of it at the time. So you quickly had to pivot, as a lot of others have, but yours was probably more extreme. Why don't you walk through the dark days, the bright days, and everything in between of that process?
Okay, I'll try my best. So before COVID, we had built a system that, our big problem we had to solve was kind of what you touched on a minute ago. How do we, make sure people show up on time and make sure it's a positive experience and all this stuff? So we had built out, a whole formula, right, where it was we can track the massage therapist when they arrive, and then the system would automatically give them points values based on an on-time arrival versus subtracting points if they're late. And then there's also the objective piece where it's based on client feedback from the person booking it, but then also the individual feedback from the individual participants getting their 5 or 10 minute massages. And so we spent all this time and money building out this super complex system that could basically be these are the best therapists, they get first access to work. And then, we have the next tier and then the next tier, so that we could make sure we were giving our very best therapists the most work, so they were working for us full-time and not really for anybody else, and guarantee a good experience. So we had just finished building that, and then COVID hit. And first, I remember it was Friday the 13th, and we had to basically furlough almost everybody, because we were just we don't know what we're going to do. So everybody is just going to take a little vacation, and we're going to sit down. And I remember I felt sorry for myself for about a week, and was just kind of mopey and was I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And then I just kind of got over it, and I was okay, well, we don't know how long this thing's going to last. My board was build out a forecast for, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, all the way up to 6 months. And 6 months was the extreme. And I remember even just laughing 6 months is ridiculous. And now here we are 7 months later. But yeah, we kind of built out all these different models, and it was just apparent that we needed to build something where we could deliver services with the, the team we already have. Like, how can we use them and create a business model where we could collect revenue and grow and provide a valuable service. And then the other thing is we also had started talking to a bunch of our clients, and they had these emerging needs where they were like, well, our employees aren't, well, they're not being physically active. All the gyms are shut down. And they felt out of touch with them. They didn't know how they were doing. So there's kind of like this need for some sort of monitoring of their well-being. And then they were also just feeling super disconnected from each other and from the company. So kind of a need for some sort of virtual team building. And what we developed was a product that was like, okay, you can work with a practitioner in real life in meditation, yoga, fitness. We even have massage instruction classes. That was kind of the first version of it. We kind of rolled it out, and we're like, now you can book virtually with any of these people on Zoom. And we just rolled that out to just our existing clients and just converted some of them to that platform. And then we started recording some of these sessions because we're like, oh, well, if someone can't make the 12 o'clock yoga class, our clients kept asking us this. They're like, can we record it, and then can they watch it later? And I was like, oh, sure, we can record it on Zoom and put it in the portal. It's super easy. Well, what we realized is like people wanted to just buy the content. Then it was like setting aside that time for 30 minutes at noon to do yoga. Well, that's not convenient with my schedule because all of us working from home are working like way harder than we've ever worked before, more hours, and there's just less time. So we started to realize like people were just wanting to buy the content more than the actual like live experiences virtually. And so then we kind of shifted and put more of our resources toward building out pre-recorded content so people could just do a 5-minute meditation between meetings to reset their mind or something like that. So and then the next big change came when our life coaches started to get really overwhelmed with problems they couldn't help people solve. So people were coming to them, they were booking life coaching, talking to a real person and saying, I'm struggling with anxiety or depression or addiction, PTSD. And our life coaches were like, we need someone to refer these people to. We can't just be like, oh, I can't help you with that. So I started looking for referral partners, and all the clinics and like mental health companies I talked to all said the same thing. They were like, we have enough business, we're overwhelmed, it's like a 3-week waiting list, we don't have capacity to start taking on all these employees of these clients that we had. And so I just sat down with my team and I was like, well, nobody wants to take these referrals, and we have a system that's already built that can manage licensing by state. And so like, if you're booking in Utah, you only see the Utah counselors when you go through that booking process, and you can select the one you want. So it was already built that way for massage therapists, and I was like, we might as well just hire our own licensed counselors. And so that's what we started doing. So we have counselors in 15 states right now, and we'll have them in every state by the end of the year.
Wow. Very cool. So that's telehealth?
Yeah, teletherapy.
Teletherapy. And I'm sure your eyes have been wide open with that. What's kind of some of your data or your anecdotal feedback on how much of that is in need out there currently?
The need has doubled, I would say, from pre-COVID. So the statistics are 1 out of every 4 Americans struggles with a mental illness of some type. That's just undiagnosed, a lot of them. And out of that 25% of our population, 80% of them never raise their hand and ask for help. So that was the biggest barrier we had to overcome. We were like, well, how do we make our platform something that makes it so easy for people to ask for help? And that was kind of our answer. It just kind of has evolved into, if we have a platform where people are like opening up the app to do their meditation every night before bed, or to do their workout every morning, or whatever service it is that they're using, if it's something they're interfacing with all the time, then when they need help, it's really easy for them to raise their hand and just click that button. And they don't even, they don't have to talk to somebody. They can just, there's no intermediary. I mean, they don't have to like call a number and then set up an appointment. It's just like a couple clicks.
So with some of these new business models, is it still, do the corporations or companies have to pay for it, or can individuals pay in as well?
Right now, it's only B2B, and so the companies pay for it. The next version of, or our next big release, employees will be able to purchase anything their employer's not paying for. So the company can choose and say, like, well, I want them to only have access to meditation, yoga, and counseling, like just mindfulness type stuff. And then it would be like, okay, well, I want to book with a dietitian. They could pay for that out of pocket. So that's kind of the next version. So it's not a direct-to-consumer platform, but we want things to be available to the employees if they want to purchase something that their employer is not paying for.
Very cool. So this is just like one pivot after another for you in 2020.
Out.
All right, so you mentioned beforehand that you were going to go back on the fundraising trail, like today.
I did, yep. Today's the day.
So you've done it a few times before. For those that will end up doing it at some point in their lives, and those that want to, what are some tips?
Some tips. So far I have raised with angels, and that has been a positive experience for me. I've raised 1.2 million, and this will put us at about 2 million after this raise that I'm doing right now. But I mean, you just have to have a really compelling story, because people are investing in you as the entrepreneur more than they're investing in the idea. So you have to make sure that the story is compelling, your reason is compelling, and the problem you're trying to solve is compelling. For me, it was really helpful to work with a couple different people on my slide deck and just get feedback on that. But you have to be really careful not to take everyone's feedback, because the very first time I built a pitch deck, so we were one of the winners of the TCIP grant through the last year that they did it, through the Utah Governor's Office of Economic Development. Whew. So we won $100,000 through that, and part of that process, we went through the Boom Startup Program, and we had to put together a pitch deck and raise matching funds. And I had pitched in front of all these different people. They gave me all this different feedback that conflicted with each other, and I just got super confused. So now I've learned that it's I have a couple go-tos that give me feedback that I take, and then everything else you have to take with a grain of salt. And once you've got your story done, you just stick to your guns, because every investor is going to have a different opinion.
Yeah, and as far as the timing and the process, was it faster or slower than you thought?
I guess I didn't really have expectations. I think we always want it to be as fast as possible. When you're raising money, you want the money immediately so you can put it to work. But both of the last two times I raised money, it took me about 3 months, and I raised $600,000 each time. But from what I've heard, that's fast. So.
Yeah. So I'm seeing a silver lining in 2020, because eventually everything of your old business model will come back. And you'll have a bunch of new business lines and revenue streams. So it's obviously been a lot of work and more stressful for you. I just get to talk about it. But what is your outlook for the rest of this year and into 2021?
Yeah, so our outlook for our company specifically, or in general? Okay. So for our company specifically, I think we're in a really good position, because come 2021, we will have a lot more clients on the platform. So what's been different about what we're selling right now is that we're selling the mental health and the wellness. We're selling through brokers, and brokers sell with health insurance renewals. So we thought, we'd roll this out and we'd close all these and we'd have all this cash coming in. But most of the contracts we're closing all start in January. So we're kind of in this space where we just kind of have to wait for those to roll in. But my outlook is super positive. Every time we demo the platform for a client, they're like, "Oh, this is awesome." I demoed it for Workfront just a month ago, and they were like, "Oh, we work with 5 different vendors. Now we could just consolidate them all into just one vendor, one single platform, one schedule." And the brokers love it. It's been really easy for us to partner with brokers here in Utah as we've rolled out the mental health, because people are just so excited about it. So I'm super optimistic. We have really good traction. I'm seeing, we're adding hundreds of users to the platform every month, and we have a lot more we're bringing in with the new year. So I'm pretty excited. I think we have a solid plan for expanding our services and starting to kind of replicate that in all the different states and see everything ramp up in 2021. And we are seeing some massages starting to come back. I think we've got about 6 clients in Utah who are active, and then we have some in Michigan and California that are getting massages. So I think we're going to see that start to creep back up as people are coming back into the offices, hopefully, and then as well as our virtual offerings going up as well.
Yeah, that could be part of an economic indicator that could be a data point for some, bean counter as they're kind of figuring out all the ramifications of this. All right, so I've used this example, metaphor before, but mechanic's car is always broken down. Professional landscaper's yard looks like garbage because they don't want to do what they do every day. So you obviously, as the CEO, need to be a user of what you're selling. Otherwise, people won't believe you, right? So what are some of your best stress relievers, and of all of your products, what do you use to maintain sanity?
Yeah, so my daughter has an anxiety disorder, and she's severe on the ADHD scale. So she's just got a lot of energy and has a really hard time like calming down and going to sleep. So she and I have been doing meditations at night. So we'll do these sleep meditations. We've got a bunch of them on our platform just like to help her get into kind of that mindset. And it's been really good for me too, to just have that time out at night. So that's been fun for us to do together. And so right now my company, we're doing founders anxiety group just for founders. Right now we're on our 4th cohort, and so I participate. I'm part of cohort 1. So every week I have just a group session with one of our licensed counselors where a lot of founders sit around. We keep them to 10, so there's 10 founders in there, and we sit and we talk about like our struggles. And it's really interesting because founders all have some similarities in personality types. So we struggle with things around control. We tend to be kind of like on or off. There's kind of like not a medium. So those are some of the observations we've made as we've been running these groups. But for me, yeah, participating in that founders group has been awesome, and that's open to all founders if people want to participate in that. It doesn't cost anything. And then the meditation. And then I also like to run, and I like bubble baths. So
Bubble bath. That's not part of your guys' service, right? Very cool. So with your background, you went to school for all of this. Depending on the year or the day or the time, carbs are good, carbs are bad, fat's good, fat's bad. As someone who's studied it and kind of lives it, how do you deal with, the diet fads or the health fads as they come and go over time?
Yeah, I always just stick to the, like, as whole and natural as possible, and then just not too much. It's like, there's a book about that where he just talks about eat real food, and not too much. And so that's what I try to do. And yeah, and it does change all the time. People are like, eggs are good, eggs are bad. Avocados are good, avocados are bad. And that keto's like the new thing right now where it's like no carbohydrates ever, and your body will lose all this fat. So I just think doing kind of everything in moderation, not having anything really be forbidden. If I'm like trying to watch what I eat really carefully, I'll just be like, okay, I can just have like 2 bites of ice cream, because it's just those first couple bites that are so satisfying,
right.
To keep you from overeating. But that's my opinion.
It's kind of like your pitch deck example of do this. This is the only and right way to do it. And then somebody who's also smart and capable says, oh, that's completely wrong. You should do it this way. So you've kind of decided on, it sounds like for your pitch deck and for your life, you keep it simple and keep the noise out. I think that's good, because there certainly is a lot of noise. Well, very cool. We appreciate you taking the time to be here. I didn't know you were going to go on the fundraising path today, so I feel a little bit sorry that you had to sit here and talk to a doofus like me, but it's been a fun story for us to watch. You guys didn't fold camp and quit, and it's nice to have heard what was going on in March, April, May, and then kind of put a little bit of a ribbon on it here in October. So thank you so much for joining.
Awesome. Thanks, Garrett.
Hi, I'm Jeff McClain, a wealth advisor with Wells Fargo Private Bank. As the presenting sponsor for today's event, we're grateful for the opportunity to show our commitment to the Silicon Slopes community, where we spend so much of our time. My team and I advise so many tech entrepreneurs, executives, founders, to help them and their family better predict their financial future. And so we're grateful to be a part of the community, the event, in the area where we spend so much of our time. With the backing and resources of one of the largest wealth management firms in the nation, my team has the experience and resources that you typically only find in a San Francisco, a New York, a Palo Alto, but we're right here locally as the largest wealth management firm here in Utah. And so we'd love the opportunity to connect, to start a conversation. I know personally, with my background as a tax and estate planning attorney, we advise and guide a lot of families, sometimes well in advance of any business transition, exit, whatever it may be, to help them meet their goals. And so as you watch today's event, as you have the chance to participate, reach out and connect to me on LinkedIn. Let's start a conversation about how we can help advise you and your family. So again, my name is Jeff McClain, MCCLEAN. Try to find me on LinkedIn, Wells Fargo Private Bank, and enjoy today's conversation, today's event, and hope you have a good time. Thanks for participating.